There's a quiet tragedy that plays out in nearly every relationship. A man devotes his time, his energy, and his heart to making a woman happy. And yet, no matter how much he gives, she always seems to want more. Her affection flickers like a candle in the wind, never stable, never enough. He buys her gifts, listens to her problems, supports her ambitions, and shapes himself into the man she once claimed she wanted. But over time, he begins to feel something hollow, a creeping realization that her happiness was never his to control, that her satisfaction was never a goal she truly wanted to reach. What if she was never meant to be satisfied? What if the entire structure of female desire, emotional, psychological and biological, is built not to find contentment, but to seek endlessly, to long for something that constantly escapes her grasp, to chase the mirage of fulfillment without ever drinking from the well of peace? This isn't about blaming women, it's about understanding the nature of feminine desire through the lens of psychology and philosophy. Men have been conditioned to believe that if they love harder, provide more, or become better, they will finally unlock her lasting happiness. But this is a myth rooted in the male fantasy that a woman's heart can be tamed by consistency, loyalty, or devotion. The truth is far darker and far more liberating. Women are not wired for contentment in the same way men are. A man's satisfaction is rooted in accomplishment, in stability, in knowing he has built something solid and unshakable. But a woman's satisfaction, as both Carl Jung and Arthur Schopenhauer observed, is rooted in movement, in emotional fluctuation, in the endless cycle of craving, consuming, and discarding what once fulfilled her. In this video, we'll uncover why this happens, why women's happiness fades the moment a man gives them what they asked for, why peace bores them, and why love, once achieved, often turns to indifference. Because until you understand this, you'll spend your life chasing her emotional horizon, never realizing it was designed to stay just out of reach. Part 1. The psychological trap of endless desire. Carl Jung once wrote that every human carries both a conscious self and a shadow, the hidden part that governs what we deny or repress. In women, this shadow often expresses itself through emotional dissatisfaction, a deep and persistent longing for something more, even when life provides everything she once claimed she wanted. Why? Because feminine psychology at its core is cyclical, not linear. A woman doesn't move toward a final goal of peace. She moves in emotional spirals, driven by instinct, mood, and the eternal dance between chaos and order. When she achieves comfort, her psyche grows restless. When she feels safe, her unconscious craves tension. When she receives devotion, she begins to test it, not because she's cruel, but because her subconscious wants to reignite the spark of emotional uncertainty that keeps her desire alive. You can see this pattern everywhere. The woman who falls deeply in love, only to grow cold once the man fully commits. The wife who provokes arguments, not because she wants to leave, but because she needs to feel the electricity of emotional friction. The girlfriend who starts drama out of nowhere, not to destroy harmony, but to feel alive again. Because peace feels too much like death to her passionate, intuitive nature. Schopenhauer warned men about this centuries ago. He said that female happiness is not a steady flame, but a flickering impulse, that the female mind is ruled by immediate emotion rather than enduring satisfaction. To her, desire is more real than possession. What she wants most is not the man who gives her everything, but the man who awakens her longing, the one she cannot completely own or predict. This is the cruel paradox men face. The more you try to secure her happiness, the faster it fades. The more you prove your devotion, the more she tests its limits. You think she's chasing happiness, but she's actually chasing the feeling of chasing. She's addicted to the pursuit itself, not the destination. This is why women often romanticize the early stages of love. The chase, the uncertainty, the drama, the emotional highs. Once a man becomes predictable, once the relationship becomes stable, her unconscious interprets it as a loss of excitement. It's not that she wants chaos for its own sake. It's that chaos keeps her emotional world vibrant. Without it, she feels numb. Part 2. The evolutionary reason behind her restlessness. To understand why women are never fully satisfied, you have to go deeper, beyond psychology, into the raw biology that shaped female behavior across millennia. Evolution doesn't care about happiness. It only cares about survival and replication. Every trait that exists today was molded to serve those two purposes. Not peace, not contentment, but continuation. From this view, a woman's dissatisfaction is not a flaw. It's a mechanism, a biological strategy. Throughout human history, the female instinct was sharpened by uncertainty. She needed to constantly evaluate, to judge, to test, to question.
Is this man truly strong?
Is he capable? Will he protect my future children? Will he survive the storms of life? That restless evaluation is the engine of her attraction, a built-in survival algorithm that never fully shuts off. Even in modern relationships, when physical survival is no longer a concern, the instinct remains. The woman continues to test her partner emotionally, not consciously but through deep ancestral programming. She must ensure that the man she's with is not becoming complacent, not soft, not stagnant. Her dissatisfaction is her way of keeping the masculine spirit awake, pushing him to evolve, to fight, to remain sharp. Ironically, this same instinct destroys relationships in the modern world, because the man no longer interprets her restlessness as a test of strength. He takes it as rejection, criticism, or lack of appreciation. He doesn't see that her emotional volatility is a relic of survival, an ancient code that once kept the tribe alive. He simply sees a woman who can't be pleased no matter what he does. But when a man learns to read this correctly, everything changes. He stops taking her dissatisfaction personally and starts viewing it as a test of polarity, the eternal dance between masculine stability and feminine chaos. He realizes that she doesn't actually want him to fix her moods. She wants to feel his unshakable presence through them. She doesn't want him to crumble under her storms. She wants him to stand firm, to be the mountain she cannot move. Part 3. Why peace feels like death to the feminine. There is a strange truth hidden within the feminine psyche, a truth that most men never understand until it's too late. Peace, the very thing men fight for, work for, and build their lives upon, often feels like death to a woman's emotions. You see, the male psyche finds satisfaction in order. A man's mind is linear, forward-driven, seeking completion and to build, to achieve, to secure. When a man loves, he wants stability. He wants to know his woman is safe, loyal, and emotionally settled. That sense of peace gives him meaning, but to the woman, that same peace often feels like a quiet suffocation. The feminine doesn't thrive in stillness. She thrives in movement, in emotional tension, in the subtle unpredictability that makes her feel alive. When everything becomes too calm, too predictable, too safe, her subconscious begins to whisper, something is missing. She starts creating emotional storms, testing the man's patience, withdrawing affection, or provoking drama, not out of malice but instinct. Carl Jung saw this as the play between the anima and animus, the feminine and masculine, energies that dance in eternal opposition. Where the masculine seeks to create order, the feminine seeks to stir the waters. Without this contrast, there is no polarity, and without polarity, there is no passion. So when peace arrives, the feminine instinct doesn't rest. It rebels, because peace kills the emotional tension that sustains her sense of connection. It's why many relationships fail after everything seems fine. The man relaxes, thinking he's finally secured her love, but she begins to drift emotionally. She misses the thrill of uncertainty, the pull of desire, the edge of mystery that made her feel alive when he wasn't yet hers. She doesn't consciously know why, but she begins to feel numb, disconnected and unsatisfied. In her words, she'll say, "I don't feel the same anymore." But what she's really saying is, "I miss the fire you gave me when I didn't own you." Part 4. The emotional paradox of the feminine. Wanting the man she can't control. Here lies one of the deepest paradoxes of female psychology. A woman says she wants a kind man, a loyal man, a gentle man. But once she gets him, her attraction slowly fades, and then she starts to crave the man she cannot completely understand, the one whose emotions don't bend to her will. Why does this happen? Because deep within every woman's psyche lives an ancient tension between security and mystery. She longs for the man who gives her comfort, but she desires the one who gives her uncertainty. Her conscious mind wants peace, but her unconscious mind hungers for passion. This contradiction is the core of feminine desire, and it's why so many men fail to hold a woman's attention after winning her heart. Jung described this inner tension as the conflict between the mother and the lover, archetypes in the female soul. The mother seeks nurturing, safety, emotional bonding. But the lover seeks danger, intensity, and spiritual awakening. When a man becomes only the provider, stable, predictable, endlessly available, he fulfills her mother archetype, but kills the lover inside her. And when that lover dies, so does her desire. That's why women often remember the men who hurt them more vividly than the ones who loved them unconditionally. Pain in her psyche is linked with emotional intensity, and intensity is mistaken for passion. It's not that she consciously wants to suffer. It's that the highs and lows make her feel. And to the feminine soul, feeling is more important than logic, peace, or stability. So when a man gives her endless validation, she begins to feel emotionally numb. When he becomes her emotional slave, she subconsciously loses respect. She starts to test him, pulling away, criticizing, creating distance, to see if he still possesses a spine strong enough to resist her emotional control. If he collapses, she loses faith. But if he stands firm, calm, unbothered, quietly dominant, she rediscovers her attraction. Part 5. The happiness illusion, why she's wired to feel unsatisfied. The modern man believes that happiness is a state, something permanent, something that can be given. But the feminine doesn't experience happiness as a state. She experiences it as emotion. To her, happiness exists only in contrast, in the rise and fall of emotion, in the shifts between love and distance, passion and peace. This is why a woman can say she loves you deeply one day and feel indifferent the next. It's not necessarily because her love is fake. It's because her emotional world operates like a tide. It moves, withdraws, and returns according to forces even she doesn't consciously understand. Schopenhauer described this dynamic as the pendulum of life, where human happiness swings endlessly between pain and boredom. For women, this pendulum swings even faster, between desire and dissatisfaction. When she doesn't have what she wants, she suffers. When she finally gets it, she becomes restless. The moment her desire is fulfilled, her psyche moves on to the next longing. Her happiness collapses not because she's ungrateful, but because she's designed to seek, not to settle. It's the same principle that drives modern consumer culture. The endless chase for more, the next relationship, the next thrill, the next emotional high. And men, tragically, fall into this trap thinking they can fix it, that if they become richer, more attractive or more romantic, she will finally feel complete. But completion doesn't exist for her. She was not built to be complete. She was built to move. Her dissatisfaction keeps her alive, just as your ambition keeps you alive. For men, fulfillment comes from achieving. For women, it comes from feeling. And feelings require contrast. Pleasure must be balanced by pain. Excitement by stillness, passion by boredom. Without these opposites, she feels emotionally dead. Part 6. The masculine error. Trying to heal what doesn't want to be healed. One of the greatest mistakes men make is believing that women want to be fixed. A man sees her sadness, her anxiety, her emotional storms, and his masculine instinct tells him to solve it, to bring order to the chaos. He believes that if he can eliminate her pain, she will finally find peace and love him more deeply for it. But this is where most men lose themselves, because what he calls healing she experiences as emptiness. She doesn't want her emotional world to be erased. She wants to feel it more deeply, to be understood inside it. Her emotions are not wounds to be healed. They are currents to be witnessed. And the more a man tries to rescue her from her storms, the more she subconsciously begins to resent him for robbing her of her emotional depth. It's not cruelty. It's biology and psychology intertwining in ways that confuse the masculine mind. A woman's emotions are not linear. They're not meant to be solved. They rise and fall like seasons, each wave giving her a renewed sense of aliveness. When a man rushes to fix them, he interrupts the rhythm of her emotional being. Schopenhauer once noted that a man's nature is to act, while a woman's nature is to feel. When a man tries to impose action on her feeling, to change it, to control it, to stabilize it, he misunderstands the essence of the feminine. She doesn't need a builder to reconstruct her moods. She needs a mirror, someone strong enough to reflect her emotional chaos without breaking. This is why women often push away men who love them too gently. Because gentle love, though comforting, often lacks presence. It gives her warmth but not direction. She needs a man who listens, not to fix but to contain. A man whose calmness doesn't dismiss her emotions but absorbs them. To her, that's strength, Not words, not solutions, but unshakable energy. Part 7. The hidden meaning behind her endless tests. Every man who's been in love knows this feeling. She tests you when things are good. She doubts your loyalty when you've done nothing wrong. She criticizes your confidence, then desires it again the next moment. You think she's irrational, but these tests are not random. They're instinctive. A woman tests a man not to destroy him, but to remind herself that he is real, that his strength isn't a mask. Each test is her unconscious way of asking, can I trust your power? Because if she can move you too easily, if her emotions can break your frame, then she knows deep down that your strength is fragile, and her attraction will fade. These tests often come when things seem most stable. The man relaxes thinking love has settled, but the woman, guided by instinct, introduces emotional friction, sometimes through subtle sarcasm, sometimes through withdrawal, sometimes through chaos. To the male mind it feels unfair, but to the female psyche it's necessary, because through conflict, she reaffirms your masculinity. This is why women respect men who can handle confrontation with calm authority. She may yell, accuse, or cry, but if you meet her storm with stillness, something deep within her relaxes. It's not about dominance in the physical sense. It's about energetic containment. Your composure tells her, I can hold space for your emotions without losing control of mine. That's the unspoken language of attraction. You don't win her through endless reassurance. You win her through unwavering self-possession. When you show that her emotional turbulence doesn't sway your identity, you give her the masculine polarity she unconsciously craves. Because the more grounded you are, the more she can trust her own chaos, the freedom that comes from understanding. In the end, the question, why are women never happy and satisfied, is not meant to be answered. It's meant to be understood. Because once you understand it, you no longer suffer from it. A woman's dissatisfaction is not a curse, and it's a mirror. It reflects the eternal difference between the masculine and the feminine. You as a man find peace in stillness. She, as the feminine, finds life in motion. Her longing for more is not a flaw. It's her nature, the same nature that gives her beauty, empathy, and the emotional depth that draws you in. But the tragedy begins when men try to make that longing disappear, when they spend years trying to fill a void that was never meant to be filled. You cannot make a woman permanently happy, because permanent happiness does not exist in the realm of emotion. Emotion moves. It dies if it stays still. The wisest men learn to love women without illusion. They stop chasing her, happiness like a trophy, and start embodying the power that commands her respect. They love her storms but never drown in them. They offer presents instead of promises. They stop asking, how do I make her happy? And start asking, how do I remain unmoved in my truth? That's the moment of liberation, when you realize her dissatisfaction was never your failure. It was her nature, testing your strength, reflecting your boundaries, calling you to rise. The masculine's purpose is not to create endless pleasure. It's to provide direction, depth, and certainty. The feminine's purpose is not to find peace. It's to awaken passion, emotion, and renewal. Together, they create the eternal dance of love and polarity, never perfectly balanced, but always alive. So, stop trying to be the man who makes her happy. Be the man who makes her feel, not through chaos, but through calm power. Be the one she cannot fully figure out, the one whose silence feels stronger than her words. Because in that mystery lies her fascination. In that strength lies her surrender. And in your understanding lies your freedom. The truth every man must know is this: you were never meant to complete her. You were meant to withstand her, and in doing so, become the man who no longer fears her storms, but commands the ocean itself.